Bola Tinubu especially, has come under a very heated debate across the land from his supporters and those of his critics as to what he did when he was the governor of Lagos State and his political antecedent since 1999. In fact, he has been referred to as the father of a new Lagos. Tonight, we shall be discussing the APC, Bola Tinubu, and the presidential election of 2023. And tonight, to speak to some of the issues and the controversies that has been raised, is one of those persons that is perceived to be closest to Bola Tinubu. He was a commissioner under him when Bola Tinubu was governor of Lagos State. And in fact, is going to be handling strategic communications for the APC presidential campaign. He joins us virtually tonight. Is Mr. Dele Alake, who was a former commissioner of information in Lagos. Thank you indeed, Mr. Alake, for joining us, and it's good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let's begin the conversation by getting off from what has become a major controversy. Now, I'd like to ask you, is it factual to refer to Bola Tinubu as a father of modern-day Lagos?
Thank you very much, Sheil. First of all, let me just lay a few parameters here for us to ponder on. Nobody can deny the place of Bola Tinubu in the scheme of modern Lagos. Now, I am personally very happy that that documentary has generated rave reviews, and its devastating effect against the opponents has been such that they had to now seek to denigrate it, to deride it, to attempt to debunk it very, very forcefully. But it has, all their efforts have gone to naught. It has not achieved any appreciable impact at all because that documentary has been factual. I directed that documentary. There is nothing that that documentary said that Bola Tinubu achieved in Lagos that I did not personally witness. I was not a happenstance around there. I did not read about all those things. I personally took part in the conceptualization and monitoring and execution of many of those projects. So I speak with convictions. I speak with utmost integrity and credibility when I say that that documentary has been very factual. And it has been so fair because this documentary has been shown on your station at least twice. I would expect even those who brought the so-called APC chieftain, and that's a misnomer. Tunde Bankantoni is not a chieftain of anywhere at all, but that is by the way. Now, those who brought him should have known when Tunde Bankantoni was making false assertions that Bola Tinubu, Lagos had existed before Bola Tinubu is not the father of Lagos. The documentary never said anywhere at any time that Bola Tinubu founded Lagos. Never. That is intellectual laziness and educational deficiency, of which Antonio, or whatever his name is noted for. Now, I want anybody to bring out a specific aspect of that documentary and challenge its authenticity and its credibility. Is it the Babbage, which you all have seen the video clip of what the Babbage was pre-1999, before Bola Tinubu dreamt of and envisioned what is now today standing as an icon in Nigeria, that is the Eco-Atlantic, that is converting liability into asset. It only takes a man of vision, it only takes a man of knowledge, and takes a man of courage to be able to accomplish that. None of the contending personalities for the presidency today can point to a vision that was translated into reality like that Eco-Atlantic. And that's not the only one. What about, is it the IGR that we mentioned in the documentary that is false? General Buba Marwa is alive. He took over Lagos at 300, he met the IGR at 300 million naira per month. General Buba Marwa appointed a consultant. Adekola is the guy's name. They appointed the Adekola consultant to grow the IGR of Lagos. He grew the IGR of Lagos up to 600 million mark by the time he left. So we took over Lagos at 600 million naira per month. And Tinubu said there was no way he was going to administer or to be a successful governor on 600 million naira per month. Don't forget that Lagos has the tiniest land area in Nigeria, and conversely and ironically, it has the largest population in Nigeria. And what that means is high concentration of population per square meter, per square kilometer, which translates into urban blight, which translates into heavy social welfare pressures, undue pressure on even the government. So how could you run a state with 600 million naira? And in any case, the wage bill at that time, we had in 1999 over 48,000 persons in the civil service alone. The wage bill was almost up to 800 million naira per month, whereas the IGR was 600 million. So he said, and I quote him in the executive council, that he was not elected to be a personnel manager. He was elected to be a governor, not just to be paying salaries, but to discharge civic obligations to the people and make life more abundant for the greatest number of the greatest people of Lagos State. So he put on his thinking cap and brought out what is today known as ABC, the Alpha Beta Company, that instituted the mechanism that started growing the IGR of Lagos. The first thing he did, and he was the first in the history, Tinubu is a trailblazer in so many areas and on so many fronts that nobody that is contending for presidency today can match that kind of antecedent and track record. He now started blocking the leakages in the system, blocking the loopholes. The first thing he did was to bring in technology, to introduce technology into the payroll system. And that technology company was called Oracle. And I recall vividly, and people are alive here, except those afflicted with amnesia or selective amnesia or downright mischief, who would choose not to acknowledge it. When he brought the Oracle into the payroll system, believe you me, Sheung, the very first month, it meant that all civil servants were to go for biometrics. The civil service resisted it. Many of them are still alive. They resisted and said, no, nobody had ever thought of this. No governor had ever brought this. Tinubu insisted. He said his knowledge as an auditor in the corporate world showed him that when the revenue is going down, there must be leakages. And the first point to start is plug the seal the leakages. So he insisted. The civil servants, when they did all the biometrics, we then discovered at the end of that exercise, the first month, 350 million naira was saved. We discovered Mr. Ekpe, Mr. Education, Mr. Omosheton Omodlo on the payroll that never existed. We discovered a full complement, a full school with full complement of staff, from principal to head teachers to tutors to non-teaching staff on the payroll that never existed in life. And that was how the IGR started jumping and jumping. And then with the mechanism of Alpha Beta, they did not increase taxes. What he did was to widen the tax net. And the IGR, by the time we were living in 2007, the IGR had jumped, was nearing the 7 billion mark. That's incontrovertible. And that same system, that same mechanism that he instituted is still in place till today. And other governors after him.
All right, so Mr. Alake,
and as of today, the IGR is hovering around the 50 billion mark.
Okay.
So how can anybody in his right senses deny that? Okay. Not to talk of courage.
There are a few issues.
Let's talk about electricity.
Mr. Alake, just a moment.
That Nigeria is doing today, IPP. He pioneered it. He blazed the trail. So
let's take the issues one after the other.
Courage and vision.
Yeah. So it does look to me just in a moment, it does look to me that the APC and the Bola Tinubu camp will be using much more of his track record when he was governor as a tool for campaign going into 2023. So we'll take it one after the other. And tonight we'll be hoping to get some clarifications from you, since you know so much about Bola Tinubu as governor of Lagos, and in fact as him as a person. You mentioned something which a lot of Nigerians would like to also to get clarification on. Who owns Alpha Beta Company?
Alpha Beta Company is not owned by Tinubu, to the best of my knowledge. Now, you are a reporter, you are a journalist, you are supposed to do your investigation. Go to the corporate affairs company in Abuja, find out who owns Alpha Beta. Let me also use this as an eloquent example of how Nigerians, the penchant of Nigerians for always want to pull someone down. Now, Alpha Beta, is it the ownership of Alpha Beta that is of prime importance, or the achievement, the objective of Alpha Beta? Is it meeting its objective? So those who are crying foul about ownership and alluding to the ownership of Alpha Beta, they are simply jealous, envious. These are people who are mentally lethargic, who cannot think up of ideas and mechanisms to institute enduring legacies. So whoever does it successfully becomes a target of attacks, of animosity. That's what's happening. And you journalists should not also pander to the whims and caprices. What is the objective of Alpha Beta? Is it meeting it? Is it surpassing it? If it's not meeting it, then you start raising questions. So what is the issue about ownership? Now, if you really want to know the ownership, you go to the Corporate Affairs Commission and get it and reveal it to the whole world. So all this back and forth is the same thing they said Ashiwaju owns Oriental Hotel. I've never seen a more ludicrous, silly beer parlor rumor mongering that has been elevated, even by supposedly knowledgeable people, supposedly educated people, and supposedly people with wherewithal who have all the machinery of investigating and discovering the truth. The fact that the Oriental Hotel is owned by the Wemco Group. The Wemco Group, they are on Wemco Road in Ogba there. They've been in Nigeria since the late 50s. They own Gemco, Wemco, Newco, all in Ikeja. They own Omo Wood in Ijebu-Ode. They own Porcelain Wares in Abeokuta. They own Ibafor Steel near Punch, one of the largest cold steel rolling mills in Black Africa. They've been in Nigeria they own Golden Crown Chinese restaurant in Palm Grove. In fact, today, if you go to Oriental Hotel, if you were the ones that, if you were patronizing Golden Crown in those days, today you will see the same stewards in Golden Crown right now in Oriental Hotel. Is the Tong family. They are family friends of the current Awujale of Ijebu-Ode. And I don't know how they came about with this by Ashiwaju, because it was Ashiwaju who commissioned, Ashiwaju and Fashola cut the tape. I recall vividly because I was there. They cut the tape of that hotel because that hotel was built during the tenure of Ashiwaju. And how come? It was the late Ahigbe, Mike Ahigbe, in 1987 or 1988 that allocated that land to the Wemco Group. 12 long years before Ashiwaju dreamt of becoming governor. And people should please subject things to critical analysis and don't just assume rumors, accept rumors, hook, line, and sinker, and propagate it and adumbrate it. Let us borrow ourselves some sense. Oriental Hotel Ashiwaju does not own a kobo. In fact, let me tell you further, all the banks that the Oriental Hotel people use, they know who the owners of Oriental is. If you want to know your father's state of well-being materially, go to the banks. It's the banks that will tell you if your father actually owns your house that you think.
Mr. Alake, can you hear me? All right, yeah. Great. Yeah, I mean, you are a very respected journalist, a very senior one at that. And
Right.
when I'm asking questions, I mean, I don't expect that you take it personal. I'm asking questions. And it was a straight away question.
I'm not taking it
Moment.
personal. I'm only
no, just a
responding for
moment,
you.
Mr. Alake, if I may
No.
land on my thought. Now, the thing is, I'm used by now to when a journalist asks a politician a question, you then go after the journalist to say, you then bring out the issue of investigative journalism and all of that.
Yeah.
But you went on the defense when I asked a very simple question, unambiguous, that who owns Alpha Beta? I mean, that question could have derived just a sentence answer, which you went on and you got defensive. You've not answered the question. And in fact, the first question I asked you on the program, just a moment, and I'll go back to the first question. Is Bola Tinubu the father of modern Lagos? Let's take it one after the other. And
I did answer you. I said there was nowhere in that documentary, if you recall vividly, that documentary stated that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the father of Lagos. No. The documentary, in fact, and I'm surprised, and I keep saying that this thing was shown on your station.
I made reference to that documentary as one of those premises that people have made. But the question is, it's a general perception, and it's being perceived as though Bola Tinubu is the father of modern Lagos. From the Bola Tinubu camp, is Bola Tinubu seen, titled, and referred to as the father of modern Lagos?
No. He's not referred to as a father of modern Lagos. He's referred to as a pathfinder of modern Lagos. Pathfinder, not the father. You can't say anybody is the father of anywhere, anyway. Not even our revered sage, Awolowo, was the father of modern Ibadan or modern Western region. No. But Awo, in his epoch, in his area, was a pathfinder of modern Yoruba land. Tinubu, in his own era, was a pathfinder of modern Lagos.
All right.
And how do you say people are modern, pathfinders? Because of their achievements in their tenures, their epochs. That's what Bola Tinubu is.
That said, Mr. Alake.
Before I finish, let me also use this opportunity to say a word or make a remark about this the Alpha Beta issue. You said I didn't answer. I did answer. I said I don't know personally because I have never thought of it thought it as important to me to know, to start verifying who owns Alpha Beta. As far as I'm concerned, Alpha Beta is doing the job for which it was commissioned. And that's enough for me. It is ensuring service delivery. It is delivering on its objective. That's enough. And I said, if you want to know as a journalist, the commission is there. The Corporate Affairs Commission is there. If I also want to know, that's where I will go. I'm not going to be asking individuals because even if they tell me whether he owns it or he doesn't own it, that I may not be able to verify that until you go to the right place, the right quarters, the Corporate Affairs Commission.
Mr. Alake, we are due for a break. We'll come back briefly because I have a long list of issues that I'd like you to speak to, and I wouldn't want us to dwell too much on. We've not even spoken more than 2 questions that I've asked you tonight, and we spent 20 minutes or so.
Because I have a lot to say.
Yeah, that's why I want us to go straight to those issues. There are a lot of controversies, and there are a lot of clarifications that you need to make. In fact, this Alpha Beta matter, I'll perhaps throw you a few facts. If I ask a question, not that I don't know, I'm asking because that's my job to ask. We'll take a break, Mr. Alake, and when we come back, more about Bola Tinubu, his antecedent, track record, and the path to the presidential election of 2023. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, Mr. Dele Alake, the Director of Strategic Communications of the Bola Tinubu APC Presidential Campaign Organization, has been speaking with us virtually. He was a Commissioner of Information during the Bola Tinubu time as governor of Lagos. So I asked you the question about Alpha Beta. I'd like us to move quickly so that we can get into other issues. You also said there are a lot that you need to leave off your chest as far as Bola Tinubu and the presidential campaign is concerned. There are a lot of controversies. And the alleged owner, because that case, I'm not sure he's been taken out of the courtroom. But the former MD of Alpha Beta are taking Bola Tinubu to court. What was that all about?
Well, quite honestly, you did say something just now. You said the case has not been taken out of court. So I am not about to go into a case that is sub judice. Once a case is in court, it is pure protocol, judicial protocol, that you do not make comments on it, or it is adjudicated upon or disposed either way. So I will not be able to make any comment as it is sub judice. I was an editor for 10 years, so I know the implications of that.
I'm curious,
so
Mr. Alake, because if you were Commissioner of Information and you were talking about an organization that helped, from the words you used, Lagos to achieve the incremental development of its IGR. And this is the man who is linked to the ownership of Alpha Beta had come out to say that the former governor allegedly had concealed his ownership and control of the firm for alleged fraudulent reasons. And I'm wondering why you did not know or bother to find out the person who owns an organization that is so pivotal to the administration you worked for.
I told you on the issue of ownership, if that's what you're asking, that I, as a person, when I have an equipment that is working, it is achieving its objective, I do not bother my head about extraneous issues surrounding that equipment, as long as it is delivering the service for which it is meant to deliver. So Alpha Beta, as far as Lagos State revenue generation is concerned, has been delivering on its mandate. So why should I start bothering my head about who owns what? It is only if it was taking money out of the coffers of Lagos State and it is not delivering on its own part of the bargain, then I will start having issues. I will start nosing around. But if none of that is happening, why should I bother my head? I should even take advantage of the service that equipment, that mechanism is delivering to further deliver the goods and services to the people of Lagos State. That should be my watchword. That should be my objective. Not who owns it.
All right.
And as per the issue that you said somebody has taken somebody else to court and all that, you said it, and I'm repeating that the issue is in court. I am not giving my experience in these matters. I'm not going to dabble into a matter that is sub judice. It is an abuse of privilege, and in fact, it will be frowned upon by the judicial institution.
So, Mr. Alake,
I'm not going to do that.
Let's move on quickly to other issues. I'd like to also know, because it's out there, some of these issues we're discussing tonight are perhaps not the first time you are hearing them. Can you tell us, what would you say is the source of wealth, or how Mr. Bola Tinubu, your principal, makes his money?
Thank you very much. Now, for me to answer that judiciously, I have to go back to how the man, I knew him to have been spending money and to have been wealthy ever before he got into office. And I'll give you an example. When in 1991, he was going into politics, making his foray into politics, he contested the senatorial election, Lagos West, and won. And you and I know, and in fact, most Nigerians know, that contesting elections in Nigeria is not a child's play. Paupers don't contest elections, more or less. I mean, how much more senatorial elections? Paupers don't do it. So he must be a man of some means. So he contested. In fact, before then, he had been contributing to political organizations. The primrose or whatever, how they call it, Alake Kola Hussaini is still alive. He had been making political contributions towards causes and all that before he himself took up the gauntlet and went into the Senate. Now, his election, his election result, he polled the highest number of votes nationwide in that senatorial election of that year and became a senator in 1992. Now, fast forward, 1993 started. We started June 12th. He was with the Yaradua caucus, the People's Front, within SDP at that time. He was also funding. He was in the pauper. So then June 12th came with the attendant annulment of the results and the plunging of some of us who were in the in the front line, as it were, plunged ourselves into it. And he did with remarkable justice, with unflinching support and energy at his disposal, and financial commitment as well. And I make bold to say here today that even after he went through all the vicissitudes, all the harassments, all the oppressions, his house fireburned, he was in detention at Alake for a while. I used to go and visit him there because we were still carrying on operations of anti-military operations, of activities to de-annul the election results and fighting for the restoration of the June 12th election outside. He was still directing and giving instructions, even in detention at Alake, and he was still spending money. And all of these years before he got into government as a governor. And after that, when he was declared wanted, dead or alive, he had to take the now famous Nadeko route out of Nigeria and landed in
that, Mr. Alake, because there are also deniers.
All of this is to establish. All of this is to establish the fact that this man had been spending money and wealthy before he ever got into office as governor.
So because there have been deniers.
Why should I?
Okay, just a moment. If I may put the question in, Mr. Alake, there have been deniers as to which companies Mr. Tinubu owns and which he doesn't own. Since you're here and you know just so much about him, can you tell us which of the companies, because your opponents are already talking about the source of wealth of their own candidate and how they made money. If you can tell Nigerians tonight, what companies or what source of wealth or how does your principal make his money? Because now these questions are going to be asked over and over again. If you can just clarify some of these issues. 1, 2, 3, 4, which of the companies does he own, since you said he doesn't own these or own that?
What I know is that right from his days in the corporate world, he has been trading in stocks. And he himself said so. Even in foreign currency, he has been buying stocks and bonds and all of that. I'm not a finance person, so I'm not going to be knowing or be interested in the nitty-gritty of it all. No, I am not a finance man. But I know that he has been trading in stocks. And I know that when you trade in stocks and you are a finance person, you know how to juggle the stock market and all of that. Those who are adept at it, they know what I'm talking about. They wouldn't start questioning how he made his money from stocks. He was buying stocks of blue chip companies and all of that, and he was making money, and he was spending money. And I said that he has been doing all of these years before he got into government. Now, why people are saying that are querying the source of his wealth is because he has been governor of Lagos, a successful governor of Lagos, a successful politician, even after office, and is about the only one of the class of 1999 who is at that enviable height, political height today. So it's bound to attract all of these negative connotations.
I mean, so you've so you mentioned stock trading.
Yeah.
Is that the only thing that you know majorly that he gets money
blue
from?
chip companies. That is immaterial. So in blue chip companies.
Does he have stake in some of these blue chip companies? Are they operating in Nigeria, or where can we link them to? Are they still verifiable?
I did say that in foreign, I mentioned in foreign, if you can recall vividly, I said in foreign at that time. And if you were to be making all of those, I mean, buying stocks and making money in foreign, you know what it means in Naira terms. So let us not overflog issues that are, look, and I told you, all of these things are being adumbrated and propagated simply out of envy, simply out of the desire to pull him down. We call it a PhD syndrome, pull him down syndrome. If you cannot match him, you pull him down. That is the bane of African development, particularly the Nigerian variant.
Yeah.
So that is it.
So
he made his money before he got into office. I think what is important for Nigerians really is to know that this man was not a pauper before he came into government as governor, unlike some others.
Mr. Alake, you have not been able to tell me tonight which company he owns that operates on the shores of Nigeria, aside the fact that he said he trades in stock.
What's my business going about the company that he owns in Nigeria? If tomorrow you become like Bola Ahmed Tinubu, why should I be bothering about the companies you own as long as it is not proved that you have taken the money of your state or whatever company you work for, that you've stolen that money? If it is not proved and you are not indicted by any court of law, why should I now be bothering my head? It is an extraneous issue, and it is, like I always say, pandering to the whims and caprices of those who are jealous and extremely envious, suffering from OCH, obsessive compulsive hatred of Asiwaju. That's it.
Mr. Alake, the day you decide to run for president or governor, your life, everything about it will be thrown under the spotlight. Shine light on it. That is what public office is about. Now, I mean, let's move swiftly because I have about 2 questions. I can't go in all of those issues. We can't delve into campaign matters tonight, unfortunately, because of the rules guiding the campaigns. We're not yet in that period. Now, 2 questions that I'd like to ask you. One, is this controversy about his identity, his real name? And I'm asking this question for you to be able to officially come to the public and enlighten Nigerians, if you may, if that's the right word to use, and clearly state what the real issues are. Even the public domain, there is a lot of confusion as to his real identity. Perhaps he had some other names, and his origin, his background, his real parents. Give Nigerians an idea or clarification in that regard.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Now, let me tell you point blank that his name, as far as I know, is Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, if anybody else has another name that I'm not aware of and has proof of that name, let the person come forward. So many things since 1999, so many issues have been raised concerning his origin, concerning his name, and all of that. And some names have been, blown out there, put in the public domain, like I would say, but nobody has come to prove or show any evidence of those names being his biological name, or of some people being his parents outside of those he says are his parents. Now, if you must allege, you must prove. You can't just allege and then go away and assume that everybody else will be as uncritical in thinking and assume it and take it and hook, line, and sinker. No. If you allege, you must prove. If Bola Tinubu is not his name, what's his name? How do you now show us evidence, documentary evidence, that this is the name that Bola Tinubu was given at birth and not Bola Tinubu? As long as you can't come up with that, as long as nobody, at least since 1999, 23 years, nobody has come up with any evidence, any contrary evidence that his name is not Bola Tinubu. So what do you expect me to say to that? But to dismiss it as the rantings and rantings of nabobs of negativism, nothing else. There's nothing. His origin. Some say he's not a Lagosian. He's from Iragbiji in Osun. He's from Oshogbo in this. He's from that. What's my business with all of those ones? How does that affect the quality of the man's brain?
Yeah. So what we are concerned,
how does that, those who, let me now give you some examples. Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton. Clinton was not even his father. Clinton was his stepfather. Through you, I want to enlighten and educate those who think that all of these things are material. They are not material. It is the stuff that the man is made of. The hood does not make the monk. It is the stuff that is upstairs of the monk that makes the monk. Even some say he didn't go to primary school, he didn't go to secondary school, he didn't go to this. I went to Chicago State University in year 2000 when this thing first broke. And I went to this the dean's office, Dean Student Affairs. I was shown the yearbook. I saw his name. I saw his picture. He had a big afro then, but his face was unmistakable. Unmistakable. You couldn't. So I saw that with my own eyes. And then the
issues are coming up. Just for a moment, Mr. Alake, if these issues are coming up, it's because, you know, when you're coming to public life, there are a lot of things that you also need to lay bare and lay clean on the table. Yes. For those who are researching, the credentials submitted by your principal, obviously there was no primary school certificates and all of that. And there are inferences that on his primary school certificate was an alleged name of Amada Ogunlere. I'm very sure that you perhaps are not hearing that for the first time. Is there any linkage? Was there any change of name in the early stage of his life?
Before I answer that, let me ask you, have you ever seen a document showing his name and certificate as Amada, whatever? Have you? Or you heard? Just like people keep saying, we heard. Rumor mongering. Nobody has ever shown any document like this to say, this is the certificate with Amada, whatever. Nobody. And Shehu, I always say that Nigerians should subject things to critical analysis. I'm not saying that people should not carry rumors, because in a political environment or political game like this, opponents must dig anything, any dirt to throw at you. But the point is, he who alleges must prove. You must show documentary evidence. There is none, Shehu, except you are telling me you have seen one. I haven't seen one. Now, the issue of primary school that you just mentioned, thank you for that. Now, let me clear the air today. Shehu, I know if you are not old enough, and this is not an aspersion or a slur on you, this is just a statement of fact. If you are not old enough, I'm sure you have people around you who are old enough to know that in those days, when people were indigent, one, schools were not as plentiful as many as we have today. Two, a lot of people were indigent and could not even afford the school fees to go to formal institutions. And at that time, a lot of people did read at home and pass their exams. And today, I can name you professors who never went to secondary school, who passed their exams from home, reading from home. Let me even shock you further. The Queen of England that the whole world is paying obeisance to today, she never went to any formal school, not elementary, not high. Go and research it. That's the Queen of England. And she's been the most talked about monarch in the entire world in the last 70 years. It is not the hood that makes the monk. Bola Tinubu should be commended for pulling himself up by the bootstraps from nothing.
Mr. Alake, we're totally out of time that we allotted for the conversation with you. But just in 30 seconds, Nigerians have a lot of expectations and hopes on who becomes the next president. And they will ask the right questions, the tough questions of the next leader of this country, because they have the right to do so. Anyone who wants to lead over 200 million Nigerians must be ready to answer the critical questions. How fit is your principal for this job in terms of health? What can you tell Nigerians tonight?
Sheung Bola Tinubu is fit as a fiddle. His schedule of duties, his schedule of work has never changed in the last 30 years. And let me now give you an empirical example. Before the primaries and after the primaries, let's be honest to ourselves, which contestant, which aspirant before the primaries traversed the length and breadth of Nigeria like Bola Tinubu, making consultations, seeking for votes and support, in spite of all this noise about his health? After the primaries, when he became candidate, which candidate has been traversing the length and breadth of Nigeria, seeking and working assiduously as him? He is as fit as a fiddle.
All right, we're totally out of time.
He has more stamina than the so-called healthy people, I can assure you.
Yeah. Mr. Alake, thank you so much for your time tonight. Brace yourself up because more questions will be asked as we move closer to the day. And please, next time,
bring it on. I'm ready.
Get those evidence so that when you present them to Nigerians, since you were a former journalist, so you were before you cross to the other side. Thank you so much, Mr. Dele Alake, for talking to us.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.